Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining the Aquarium Online Academy today. My name is Stacy, and I'm coming to you from the Aquarium of the Pacific in Long Beach, California. Now, for this episode, we are going to explore the world of octopuses. So, if you have a question, this is your chance to send in that question to get answered, especially if they pertain to octopuses. Now, in order to send us that question, all you need to do is text. Our number is right over here. It's 562-286-1838. Again, it's 562-286-1838. And if you are one of our younger viewers, please make sure that you ask for permission because text rates may apply. All right. So, and if you're not watching this live and you still have questions you want to send us, we are more than happy to receive and answer those questions. You just have to email us. And the email address is just below the number there, live@lbaop.org. So, octopuses, they are incredible creatures. And today we are going to explore the science behind them. So what are the things that you want to know about them? Well, there's definitely some things that we all probably know, right? We know that an octopus has 8 arms. Now, sometimes they're called tentacles, but I think they are really known, especially in the science world, as arms. And it's really because of what they can do. Their arms are really incredible things. And did you know that each arm even has its own brain? Now, I know this sounds kind of crazy, but an octopus actually has 9 brains. Now, it has the brain in the center between its eyes, right there, basically. And that's the thing that kind of controls all. But each of the 8 arms has its own, mini brain. That allows the octopus to have some really great reactions. Maybe they sense something and they need to grab it because it's really good food. Well, instead of having to wait for that arm to sense and then send a signal to its head, it just reacts. And so all of these brains, these 9 brains, kind of work together to make this octopus pretty amazing. So that's one of the really cool things about octopus arms. Now, what are some other things about octopus arms that you can think of? Let's take a look. Now, do you notice all the little dots? Those little suction cups, right? So octopuses have suction cups on the bottoms of their arms. Now, what are those suction cups for? Well, why don't we watch a video and we can kind of see at least one of the functions. What's this octopus doing? Did you notice? Woo, dizzy camera work there. Did you notice that our octopus is using its suction cups to stick onto the surface, which in this case is a window. In the ocean, probably rocks. But it's sticking to that surface in order to walk. So an octopus doesn't have legs and feet the way that we do. Legs and feet are what allow us to walk around. Instead, the octopus has its crazy arms here with all of those suction cups to help them stick to things to allow them to walk around. Now take a look at how those work. It just seems to work without any effort, right? Well, that's also one of the reasons why having a brain in an arm is a really great thing, because that brain can kind of control the suction cups on that arm. Now, this octopus that we're seeing right here is called a giant Pacific octopus. It is the biggest octopus in the world, and these giant Pacific octopuses can have up to 250 suction cups on one arm. So just imagine that, 250 suction cups to control on one arm alone, and they have 8 of them. So it's really incredible how they can get all of those suction cups to work. The suction cups are not only used for sticking onto things, for holding and for walking. It's also used for sensing its surroundings. It can taste chemicals. So it's just like when you eat a cookie. Right? When you're eating a cookie, you're tasting the cookie, right? You're basically getting all the chemicals from the cookie in your mouth, and you can taste it using your tongue. Well, they don't have that kind of sense. Instead, they use their suction cups for it. So their suction cups stick to something, and they can taste it. can you imagine having 8 different tongues? And maybe you can even touch 8 different things and you're tasting all of it at the same time? Again, one of the reasons why they need to have so many brains, to get all of those messages together in their heads. Now let's see, we have a handful of questions here, so let's go ahead and answer some of those. Diana, thanks so much for watching, Diana, and for sending your question. Do octopus arms grow back if they get eaten? That's a really great question. I do believe that an octopus arm can very slowly grow back a little bit. It's not as amazing as, say, a sea star. And if the arm did come off, it wouldn't grow a new octopus the way like a sea star arm might be able to do for a sea star, for some types of sea stars. So the octopus arm itself can grow back, but it does take a very long time. And sometimes it doesn't even happen. But that is a great question. Let's see. Jove is asking, where are the octopus's gills? Ooh, that is a great question. Now, they have gills, right? They have to breathe underneath the water. Now, not everything that breathes underwater or gets oxygen from the water has gills. What can you think of that has gills, that uses water to help them get their oxygen? If you're saying fish, yeah, absolutely. Fish are the ones that are real well known for those gills, right? Well, an octopus actually does have gills, but it doesn't look like a fish's gills. The fish have those little flaps, right, that go like this. And underneath those flaps, that's where its gills are. For an octopus, it's actually inside its body. Now, let's take a look at a whole picture of an octopus so that way we can see its head versus its arms versus its body. Now, the body of an octopus is called a mantle. And the mantle is basically where all the guts are, all of the internal organs. Now, for us here, let's see, you can see the arms, right? That's what all the suction cups are attached to. We're going to get a different picture here. Aha! This is a great one. Okay, arms. Yes, we got those. Can you see the eyes? Okay, so if you can find the eyes, you know where its head is. Remember, right between the eyes, that's where the brain is. And then, do you see this giant thing right here? Even though it looks like it's got a real big head, it actually doesn't have a giant head. It has a little head. And this part right here is the mantle. Remember, that's the body. Now, right inside the mantle is where the gills are going to be. It's also where its digestive system, so like the stomach and how it gets all the nutrients from its food, all of that is right inside this thing right here. Now, wait a minute. We're seeing this. Do you know what that is? It almost looks like a funny little noodle or button or something, right? Well, that is a part of the octopus called a siphon. And the siphon is one of the things that's necessary for the octopus to be able to breathe using its gills. Now, let's see. Oh, man, check this out. Okay, so that and that. Do you notice what they're doing? They're opening and closing, right? But they're opening and closing at different times. When one is open, the other is closed. This is basically the octopus breathing. So when the big one here opens, it sucks water in. And that water goes through its mantle. So it's almost like having its body bathed in ocean water. Like the guts are bathed in ocean water. It's kind of nuts. Okay, so the water's going in there and the gills are right in there and they can get the oxygen. And then once that happens, they need to breathe out. They have to spit that water out, right? And that comes out of this siphon here. So breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. That's pretty cool. Now, this siphon is not only used for breathing. It's also used for going to the bathroom. Okay, so the siphon's actually a really important thing. It's just a way to get things from inside of their bodies, inside their mantle, out of their bodies. So the water that they don't need after they breathed, right? They spit that out through the siphon. Their waste comes out of the siphon. When they ink, it comes out of the siphon. So that's a real good way to just kind of get stuff out of their bodies. All right, Lily is asking, how does an octopus shoot ink? Lily, I think you read my mind. This is how. So I believe we even have a video that shows just a very brief inking of an octopus. It is, this octopus looks like it's trying to get away. So it found a crevice and a cliff. and it's kind of trying to dig itself underneath this cliff. But it has a lot of rocks in the way. Now, luckily, it does have 8 arms and all of those suction cups to kind of help move those rocks out of the way. But this octopus, it looks like, was having a tough time doing all of that. And so as it was moving the rocks, maybe it started to panic. And so it started to ink. Now, do you all know why they ink? What does ink do? Well, it creates this cloud in the water, and that cloud in the water is really great if you're trying to get away. It also has a different smell than the octopus. So that smell, like say an eel was going to try to eat this octopus, the smell of the ink is going to mess up the eel's nose a little bit. So it's going to be harder to smell where the octopus went. The ink is also going to be like a curtain that comes over, and that curtain is going to make it really hard for any animals to see the octopus too. So that's why ink is so important. And they actually make it in their body. They have this little sac. It's another organ, like guts, right? It's a little organ in there that actually makes all of the ink. And then they squirt it out from the siphon when they need to use it. And then it just takes a little bit of time, but eventually it comes back. So let's watch this octopus. Oh, did you see that? So it's making itself a little cloud of ink, right? Now, wait a minute. Did it look like this octopus can fit? It kind of looks like it's struggling a little bit, doesn't it? But what's really crazy is that the octopus's body is completely soft, almost completely. There's only 2 hard parts of its body, and they're actually quite small. Now, if you're talking about a whole big octopus, the only things that are hard in their body are the lens of their eye, so one part of their eye, not the whole eye, just a very small part of the eye, and also its mouth or beak. Those are the only 2 hard parts of their body. The rest of them is totally squishy. Now, I know not many of us have had a chance to touch an octopus before, although some people, maybe you've eaten an octopus, so you kind of know what they feel like a little bit. Well, an octopus is very interesting because if you were to touch it, it would kind of have like loose, slimy skin, and it kind of wiggles a little bit. But underneath that is the octopus's muscles. And the muscles are very, very strong. So octopuses can be incredibly strong. But if they need to relax their muscles so they can squeeze into a crevice, they totally can. As long as the octopus's beak or mouth can fit through a crack or a hole, they can actually fit. Look at that. It looks like it's such a small space. But you can see here the octopus just squished its body down and just creeped right inside there. And that's a really great thing for an octopus because if you are really squishy, it means there's probably a lot of things that might be out there trying to eat you, especially if you're not a real big one too. So being able to fit into these small crevices is a really great thing for these octopuses, a real great way for them to stay safe. And the ink helps too, right? Fantastic. All right, Alice wants to know how long octopuses live. Oh man, Alice. So they don't live very long. An octopus's life is very interesting. So when they first hatch from an egg, their eggs are pretty small. In fact, for a giant Pacific octopus, which is the biggest octopus out there, their egg is like a rice grain size. So it's pretty little. And that means the baby that hatches out is also pretty little. They look like tiny little mini-me's. Look at that cute little one. Now, it's hard to tell because, you don't know exactly how big it is. But it is a small octopus. Look at how big the shells are behind it. And these are not big shells. So it tells you how little this octopus is. Now, this one here is called a two-spot. It's what we actually find here in Southern California, around the Long Beach area. So they're itty bitty and little and teeny. And once they hatch, they're on their own. They're not taken care of. So they have to find lots and lots of food to eat so they can grow and grow and grow. Now, it only takes maybe 1 to 2 or maybe 3 years for them to become full adults where they can have babies of their own. And once they lay their eggs, they basically are there to protect their eggs, and either just before they hatch or maybe right after they hatch, the octopuses are done with their life. So they don't live for very long. Now, the giant Pacific octopus, remember the biggest one out there? That's about 3.5 years or so is really its lifespan. The two spot that we just saw there, I think its lifespan is even shorter. It's more like 1 to 1.5 years. So here's the GPO, the giant Pacific octopus. Again, that one's like 3 to 5 years or so. So it's not a really, really long time. But they basically are able to complete their whole life cycle, which is pretty incredible. Thanks, Alice. All right. Marcelino is asking, what animals eat octopuses? Ooh, that's a good question. What animals do you think would eat an octopus? I actually mentioned a few possibilities a little bit earlier, right? People eat octopuses. Yeah, absolutely. Who else eats octopuses? Do you remember I said an eel? Yeah, an eel would definitely go after an octopus. Other kinds of fish, other than an eel, will even sometimes eat octopuses. And you know what's interesting? Even an octopus can eat another octopus. So there's actually a lot of animals out there, even seabirds, that would go after octopuses. Remember, they're squishy, and especially when you're a little squishy one, like our two-spot octopuses or red octopuses that we have in this area. They're a lot smaller in size, and so there's a lot of things that are bigger that are going to go after them to eat them. But they do put up a fight. Remember, they can ink to try to get away. They have all of these arms. They have all of these suction cups that are incredibly strong. And so they're going to put up a pretty good fight to try not to get eaten, right? What else does an octopus have to help it not get eaten? All right, I want you to think about that for a moment while we answer Susie's question. Susie wants to know if she should be scared of octopus if you see it in the ocean. Would it hurt you? That's a good question. Now, most octopuses are incredibly shy. In fact, so shy that you won't even see them to begin with, because really they are all about not being seen. Wait a minute. That actually answers our question that I had you all thinking about. Can we take a look at this? Let's see if we can find an octopus and how it hides. All right. So an octopus is a fantastic hider, and it's going to hide because it doesn't want to get eaten. So there was that octopus there. Did you see it when we first pulled this video up? It was almost impossible. Look at that. Wow. Now, if you were swimming by, would you have found it? Probably not. And that's exactly what the octopus wants. Number one, it will stay safe from its predators. It's a lot harder for a predator to find it, right? If it's hiding like this. The other thing too is maybe its food, its prey, is going to get a little closer to it. So then it can catch something like a little fish or a crab because it's hiding like this. But it also means that people, if you are in the ocean, may not find it. And remember, we were saying that some octopuses like to hide in the cracks and crevices and in caves, under rocks. So that's another reason why we won't really be able to find them. Now, my recommendation is if you see an octopus in the ocean, that you leave it alone, because we're really big, right? And if we were to go to this octopus, we might scare it. And that's kind of what happened with our diver here with our video. And that's one of the reasons why the octopus revealed itself and tried to get away, because we had a diver in the water here. It spotted the octopus got a little bit nervous. And so it was like, I gotta get out of here. I might be in trouble. And so that's usually what will happen if we see them. They're going to be pretty scared of us because we're pretty big. And also remember, we're a predator of an octopus. So you don't have to worry too much. But my recommendation is that you probably don't handle them. So I wouldn't have gone over to give that octopus a hug. Although they look pretty huggable, they're also quite slimy. But we should probably leave them alone so we don't have to worry about that at all. But really, there's nothing for us to be afraid of. Now, wait a minute. Did you see how this octopus changed? I'm going to step out of the picture here and let's watch this again. So we see the octopus. Look at its color. Look at the texture of its skin. Now compare it to now. What did you see that changed? Kind of everything, right? It changed its shape because it's not walking around. It's kind of settled down. It's still a little bit dark, but do you see the little white parts on it? And then also the skin isn't smooth anymore. Earlier, the skin was a little bit like cracky, but not bumpy and spiky looking like this. These are the types of things that an octopus can do to hide. This camouflage is incredible. So not only can they change the color of their skin, but they can change the texture too. And all of this has to do with muscles that are within their skin. Now they have the color changing cells. So these little parts of their skin, these are called chromatophores. And these chromatophores can change color. Sometimes they're going to be red, sometimes yellow, sometimes white. They can even change to brown and black. It depends on your octopus. And so the way these color changing cells work is that they're a little circle. And when the circle opens up and shows the color off, you can see that like the circles oh, there we go. Excellent. So you can see that these are the dark circles that are opening and closing, right? So that will help them change color to be darker. If they're open, they're going to look dark. If they close, they'll look whiter. Okay, so that's how those color changing cells, the chromatophores, are working. Now, the way that the texture of the skin can change is like this ring of muscles in their skin. They have a bunch of little rings of muscles. And when when that ring contracts, so when it squeezes, it makes the skin go bloop and stick up. And then when it relaxes, it spreads out again. So that's crazy. This is all kind of part of their skin. Now, how does an octopus know what color to change? Because here's a very interesting thing. For us, we can see color, right? So our eyes can see light and dark. We can see a whole bunch of colors too, all the colors of the rainbow, in fact. And so our eyes have two different parts that help us do that. We have something called rods and something called cones. And those things together help us to sense the world around us. Now, even if we don't have those, we can still sense the world around us, right? But an octopus doesn't have those two things. In fact, the octopus was believed to only see in black and white. So then how do they know what color to change? Now here's the crazy part. You see that eye? Do you see the black part of their eye? Now for us, the black part of our eye, it's hard to see on me right now, but if I was to go to a mirror and look really closely, you can see, or maybe you can do this too, the very, very middle of your eye, the darkest part of your eye is a circle. And when it's dark, the circle actually opens a little bit. And when it's light, the circle closes. And that's called a pupil. Now let's look at the darkest part of our octopus eye. Their pupil is not shaped like ours, right? It's a line. Now, this is the crazy part. Their eye, that pupil, can change shape. It can squish more or like widen a little bit more. And that is how they can see color. So they don't see color the same way that we do. Their eyes, even though they are very cool and they do have some things in common with our eyes, they just function a little bit different. And so these are all the ways that an octopus can sense its world. Now, why does an octopus need to sense its world? Why would we want to see or smell or taste things around us? Well, for one, it's fun to explore, right? But it's also really important for them to stay safe. It's also really important for them to find food. I'm a big fan of finding food. And so, like if somebody's baking cookies, I use my sniffer to sniff those out because I definitely want some of those cookies. Same thing goes with some French fries. Oh man, I love French fries. Okay, sorry. I got away with the food brain thing here. So octopuses, they don't eat cookies or French fries. But they are going to be looking for things like crabs or squid or octopuses to eat, maybe even little fish, clams, mussels. They eat so many different things, and all of those senses are going to help them find those things. Now, here at the aquarium in the Pacific, our octopuses also like to explore. Now, they don't explore all the time because remember, they're kind of shy, and they do get worn out. Just like if you were to run around a whole lot, we get tired, right? You want to take a nap. It's the same thing with an octopus. After it explores a lot, it gets tired and it needs to rest. But we still want to make sure that an octopus has a lot to explore. Out in the ocean, things are changing all the time. The animals are moving around, the waves are pushing the rocks, different smells are coming in, the temperature of the water changes. All of those different changes in the ocean keep these octopuses thinking. Now here at the aquarium, we don't have that much change all the time because it's a closed system. It's basically like an exhibit, right? So instead, we change things up for them. So that way they have stuff to think about, to explore. Something that's super easy is in their exhibit, they have lots of things. I call it furniture because it's kind of like having furniture in your home. So they have things like rocks, like seaweed. They even have friends like sea stars. Now, all of the rocks and seaweed and friends, the lighting even, the temperature, these are all things that we can actually change. So one thing to get this octopus exploring is to take this seaweed right here, and instead of here, move it over here. And then the octopus walks around going, whoa, 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 whoa. Everything's changed. And so it wants to explore to figure out what's going on. So just changing its furniture is a really great way to keep them occupied. The other thing you can do, instead of just handing them food, is to throw food in the water and have them find it. Or something we like to call enrichment. Now, there's lots of animals out there that receive enrichment. Even my dog gets enrichment. It's basically something that gets them to either move around, so to get some exercise, or to think. So that is really what enrichment is all about. Now, what can you give an octopus to make it move or think? Well, you can give them toys. You can even give them puzzles. And these are the types of things that we can do for our octopus friend, especially Godzilla, our GPO, our giant Pacific octopus, who lives here right now. So Godzilla is very smart octopuses, as octopuses typically are. And so we want to make sure that we give them lots of things to keep them thinking. Now here's Godzilla. Oh, and this boat has a crab in it. Now, Godzilla doesn't necessarily know that yet, but he knows something's going on. So it looks like he's wearing puffy pants. It looks like he might be hunting. Oh, look at that. He has spikes now. Maybe he's trying to blend in with the rock a little bit. Now, look at how those arms move. Now, it is important for an octopus to be cautious, right? Because if that was something that could hurt the octopus, it doesn't want to just charge in there and grab it. So if he's unsure about it, he's going to take his time to investigate. In fact, he's taking a lot of time to investigate. Now that he's over there, he's going to investigate by touch. And remember, those suction cups can taste too, right? So when the person put the boat in the water, she was holding the boat. She also held the crab, so the boat might taste like a crab. So now that he knows there might be some food in there, he needs to get the food to his mouth. Now, an octopus's mouth is in the center of all of its arms. And remember, it is a beak. So that hard exoskeleton or hard shell of that crab is no match for an octopus. So he is going to take that crab to his beak and start munching and crunching. Now, he knows, based on his senses, that that boat is not something he wants to eat. So he let go of the boat, and he's taking the crab down to his little home where he can enjoy it at his leisure, savoring his snacks. All right, so that is one of the things that we can do for an octopus. We can also even give them puzzles. And one of the puzzles that I think is really fun is they can take a jar and actually put food inside the jar. And they usually rub the food on the edge. They use the turn lid to close that jar, and then they hand it to the octopus. The octopus then has to figure out how to unscrew the lid of the jar to get the food on the inside. Now, to me, that is incredible. My dog cannot do that. My dog pushes the jar around with his nose and then looks at me like, hey, can you open this, please? Because that's what a dog does. The octopus instead thinks through it and can open the jar. And the really cool thing is it learns. The first time it experiences a jar, it takes a very long time. And as they play with the jar over time, they start to do it without any effort whatsoever because they learned how that works. Now, this is a little red octopus. It's a cute little one. And there's something tasty inside this little box. Now, octopuses don't typically come across boxes all the time. So this is great enrichment. It's also a great hiding place, isn't it, little one? So our Aquarius JJ is putting some food in the box. And it has holes so that way the octopus knows that there's food. Oh, I see a little arm. The octopus knows something's going on. Now look at that. It doesn't always have to be in water. They are actually known to be able to crawl on land for a little bit, like in a tide pool, to get to another pool of water. Now it senses that there's shrimp in there, but it needs to be able to get inside. And the octopus figured out how to pop open the box to get that tasty treat inside. It's really incredible. So these animals are so intelligent and so amazing. And I'm so glad that you joined us today to learn a little bit about them. Now, if you have more questions, feel free to send us that email. Remember, live@lbaop.org. Now, we have 4 more classes today, so I hope that you can stick around and join us for the next sessions. This is Stacy over here in the Aquarium of the Pacific, just saying thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.